Hello and welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
And we are the Horror Boys. And this isn't just any old podcast on this old internet. It's a horror movie review podcast. And you know what? I've decided I'm just going to start lying. It's the greatest horror movie review podcast ever, and you can't fact check that.
I mean,
it's an opinion, so you can't fact check.
Yeah.
But also, I literally said I'm lying. I don't think that. I think we do a good job. But maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't, and that's fair. Give us a try. Yeah. Try to make it through the whole episode to have a true, full opinion on us. Whoa. So yeah, today we're talking about a horror movie, and we're talking about The Faculty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is directed by Robert Rodriguez of Spy Kids.
Spy Kids 2.
Spy Kids 3. Mariachi. Planet Terror. And the stab scene in Scream 2.
Yeah.
He was the second unit director for that scene in that movie. Then we have our writers, which the story writers were David Wechter and Bruce Kimmer, I believe, which I actually did research this time to know what the difference between types of writers are. A story by writer means they came up with the general idea, but then it kind of sat around for a while, and it was retooled and re-scripted and rewritten by Kevin Williamson. It's Kevin Williamson. I'll bring up some of his accolades in case this is your first episode. He wrote Screams 1, 2, and 4. He wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think just the first one. I'm not sure. But, yeah, he's done a lot. He was also initially supposed to direct this film. But he had turned it down because he wanted to direct a different script he had written called Teaching Miss Tingle, which he did end up directing that instead of directing this. So, yeah. So he just wrote this movie. Then we have our composer, who is Marco Beltrami, which that name might sound familiar, because he was the composer for Screams 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, yeah, he does some good composing. Still does in this movie. This movie, I will say, and, not as a complaint, it does have a little bit less, composing and a more of a soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, here's popular music from the 90s. Mixed with
punk and rock music.
Yeah. It's like if you live in San Antonio like I do, it's like if you go on to 99.5 Kiss. That's this movie is that. And I'm okay with that.
Start off with a song from The Offspring.
Yeah, don't worry. I have the name of the song written down and everything. I was ready to talk about that. Don't you worry. But first, we have to get through a couple more, behind the scenes credits. We have our director of photography, Enrique Chediak, who was also the director of photography for Bumblebee, Lady and the Tramp.
The live action?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, he director of photography, the animated movie. The thing that doesn't have cinematographers.
Right. Yeah.
And he also, for a horror credit, he also DP'd on 28 Weeks Later. Yeah.
Nice.
Then we got our makeup, which is done by, could you guess it? That's right, it's K&B FX Group. Because of course it is. They do every movie ever. But in case this once again is your first podcast, K&B FX Group is the group that is Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger. That's the K, N, and B. Most recently that we've covered, they did the special effects for Wishmaster 2 episodes ago, but they've also done 3 of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, the later ones, so but the special effects were the only good things about some of those movies.
That's true. That is very true.
They also did 3 of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. These guys, they do a lot. They are very prolific. If you're a fan of our podcast, you may have heard us, rave about Tom Savini, who deserves all the credit we gave him. But I think K&B might honestly be bigger deals at this point with how much I'm seeing that they have actually done.
Yeah.
But yeah. But also, it's a tight race of all of them being on the top. How do we just say, you know what, take it back. Let's not try to say they're better. Let's say that those K and B plus Tom Savini are the Mount Rushmore. Those are the four men. Yeah, let's open the actual movie, though. We open with The Kids Aren't Alright by The Offspring playing over Coach Joe Willis, played by Robert Patrick, who was the T-1000 in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'm sure he did more than that, but I mean, that's just a cool thing. I mean, how could you not? Yeah. That's all that I care about. Like, he is T2. He is the Terminator in that movie. I know technically there are two, but he's the bad guy. He's the cool one. Like, he's cool. He does cool, like, melty things. He's cool. And he's yelling at his team, which includes the captain of the team, Stan, who is played by Sean Hoddesy, who's done a lot of TV work, including long runs on Southland and Animal Kingdom. Not two shows that I haven't watched, but he did, like, he's been, I think he was on all of Southland and has been on Animal Kingdom since 2016. So, if you're a fan of either of those shows, you probably recognize him in this.
Fascinating. I did recognize him, but I couldn't tell you what I recognized him from.
It's fair.
And alternatively, the guy who I did recognize
was his friend, Gabe Satora, who was played by Usher, Raymond IV, or just Usher, if you know.
Or just Usher.
Yeah, who does do some other acting work. One of which I don't remember which it is, but I will bring it up later because he's actually co-stars with a different cast member in another movie he's in. But let's be real. You're not. If you know the name Usher, you don't know him from his roles in acting. You know because he's a musician. So, yeah. After the team leaves, Coach Willis gets mad at a sprinkler before an unknown person comes up to him, and we fade to black. Ooh, what happened? He got infected.
Yeah, he got alien.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Yeah. What? Spoiler, we don't know it's aliens yet. We then head to a staff meeting where the principal, Valerie Drake, played by Bebe Neuwirth of Jumanji and Cheers. She was on Cheers. I feel like that's probably one of her biggest things. I'm not a Cheers fan, but once again, if you are a Cheers fan, she was like on the show. So hey,
Cheers.
Yeah, she's meeting with with a couple teachers. The first one is Miss Jessica Brummer, who is played by Suzanne Willis. Also, we have Miss Karen Olsen, who is played by Piper Laurie of Twin Peaks, and most horror relevant, Carrie, where she plays Carrie's mother. I have a big smile on my face, and he has the opposite. For our audio listeners, that bit will never happen. As long as there's mothers in horror movies, I'll bring back that bit. And most have them.
Yeah. She looks very strikingly similar to the grandma in Halloween Town also, but she's not the same person.
Fair.
Just thought it'd be worth noting for anyone who else went. Is that the grandma from Halloween Town? No, it's not.
Fair. Then we also have Mr. John Tate, who is played by Daniel Von Bargen of Horror Relevancy. He was in Thinner as well as Silence of the Lambs, but in Austin Relevancy. So this is for me. This next moment is just for me. You can tune out if you're not me. No, don't actually tune out, Chris. Come back.
Okay.
He played Commandant Spangler in the first 3 seasons of Malcolm in the Middle, which that made me happy. I love Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah. If you're a Malcolm in the Middle fan, that means something to you. If you're not, fair. We'll move on. Miss Drake reluctantly informs them that they can't afford new computers or a New York field trip or a play this year because they're a football town and the school board and parents want money spent on things like New Jersey's, not state of New Jersey's and as well as new pads and new jock straps.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's spending money on New Jersey except New Jersey itself.
Well, yeah, that's fair. We don't want to just be a badmouth New Jersey podcast. But how buddy could I? After the meeting, Miss Drake is alone in her office when Coach Willis comes in and creepily tells Miss Drake she's very, very pretty tonight. And repeatedly insists on needing a pencil. Miss Drake gives him a pencil and tries to leave, but he won't let her, and he
puts the pencil through her hand.
Well, yes, but I was trying to read my line. That is, yeah. He also said he repeats the "how pretty she is" line first, and then stabs her in the hand with pencil. Also, I think she mentions here about how he's close to crossing a line in harassment. And then, pencil stab. And he says this line that feels like it should be really important. Spoiler, it's not. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Miss Drake scratches the coach with her keys and also drops them while doing that and runs away. But each door out she checks is padlocked, so she can't escape. So she runs into a classroom but can't get out of the window before Coach Willis runs in blowing his whistle. She smashes a glass jar over his head and runs away, arming herself with a pair of scissors. On her way out of the room, she runs to the door and sees Miss Olsen and asks her to unlock the door, but Miss Olsen doesn't have her keys. So Miss Drake runs back to her office to get her keys. Miss Drake gets to the door while Coach Willis is at the other end of the hall. It's a really cool shot. It's really like him menacingly behind her.
Very ominous.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh no. But she is able to just barely get out and relock it. While she's relocking it, she does drop the scissors though. But yeah, she's able to lock him out, so he's not able to follow her. But she turns around and is repeatedly stabbed with scissors by Miss Olsen, or Mrs. Olsen, sorry, who says, I always wanted to do that. You may think at this point, this line must be really important. The fact that both of the obviously whatever, we don't know what they are yet, but they're aliens. The infected with alien people are saying this line. It's going to be super relevant. Never said again by any of the aliens.
Nope, not once.
Really thought it was like their catchphrase. It's not.
Yeah. Just the first two times that a person does something weird.
And don't get me wrong, it's just whatever. It's weird. I can't justify it at all. It's
a very bizarre writing choice. Yeah.
If it was just once, it's fine. I'll be honest. I kind of led into me saying, "Oh, it sounds so important" when he said it. If it was just him, fine. Because then it's just a line he said. But the fact that they both said it, it really felt like it was important, and it wasn't.
Maybe it had something to do with no one likes Mrs. Drake because I don't know.
Maybe.
And that's the only almost justification that I could come up with.
Sure.
Is all the faculty are fed up with Mrs. Drake, but also
why? She seemed like a nice lady who's just doing her job.
Yeah. So I take it all back. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It never happens again.
You don't have to worry about it. This is all within the first 8 minutes. Don't worry about it ever again.
Yeah.
We then have our title card with some thunder sound effects. Ooh, spooky. Now we hide into our meeting, our teen cast portion of the movie. Woo, teen cast portion.
Yep.
First, we see someone driving quite recklessly, then taking up 3 spots as they park. This guy doesn't know how to park. It's Zeke, who is played by Josh Hartnett of Penny Dreadful, 30 Days Night, and H2O, which he did the year before. And in that movie, fun fact, his character's name was also John Tate, like the teacher. I think I doubt it was a coincidence, but it's just weird fun fact.
Interesting.
Yeah, both their characters' names are John Tate. I don't know why.
Huh.
In case, you are maybe a newer horror fan and the term H2O means nothing to you, that is the, Halloween technically you could say it's H20, but everyone calls it H2O. It's the 20th anniversary sequel they made. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Zeke goes to his trunk and loads up on some pens. We don't know what's up with these pens yet, though. They do seem a little off, though.
Yeah, they are filled with white powder.
Yeah. We then meet Casey, who is played by Daniel Radcliffe of Wait. No, I'm getting word. It's actually Elijah Wood, who played Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings, as well as some horror relevancy. He is in the movie Come to Daddy and Maniac, the reboot, which was mentioned last week because the cinematographer of Maniac was Maxime Alexandre, who was our cinematographer of The Voices. Small World.
And that's one of the, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Type deal.
Which I only have 2
degrees of Elijah Wood.
I only have 2 degrees because I was in the movie with Drew Barrymore. Just saying. Just one for the new listeners, in case they don't know that. I'm pretty much a big deal. I was an extra in a movie. You can't see me, but I'm there.
Especially speaking, technically, an extra.
Yeah, technically, I showed up. So Casey gets off a bus and runs into an elbow while staring at a girl. We don't know who this girl is yet, but don't worry, we will meet her in like a scene.
Yeah.
But also, this is a cool little thing that I actually thought was cool. I mean, it's cool in this movie, but then also not cool because I saw this movie after this other movie that did it much worse. Whenever we meet these new characters, we have their name flash on the screen, which is kind of cool until it reminds me of Suicide Squad, and it gets less cool. But that's not really fair to this movie because it came out like 20 years before that.
Yeah,
but
just a few years.
I have to admit, it also, I will say the other thing about it is it's weirdly inconsistent because we already met Zeke, but we didn't meet Zeke because his thing doesn't come up until his second scene for some reason.
Yeah.
We also get one for Stan in a little bit, which that one I'll give it because the first one was like way before they were doing this format, so that's fair. But Zeke's definitely should have been when he drove up, but it wasn't, and it isn't.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out there as a, but it is. I actually do think it is kind of a cool little way of like introducing the characters and who they are. It's a quick way to be like, oh, that's their name. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then a goth girl walks by who's named Stokely, who is played by Clea Duvall, who was later in The Grudge, and I believe also later in Ghost of Mars, as well as later in She's All That with Usher and Matthew Lillard. We're going to bring up Matthew Lillard anytime I have a chance to bring up Matthew Lillard. As well as, once again, in Austin Important, I need to bring this up. You don't care. No one else cares, and that's fair. She was also, I gotta bring up my Buffy knowledge. She's also in an episode of Buffy in season 1, the episode Out of Mind, Out of Sight, where she plays Mary, a girl who is such an outcast she becomes invisible. So that's cool.
Huh.
That episode's really weird. I'm gonna get a real quick little thing about it. It ends with after she gets it ends in the most un-Buffy way at the time of her being captured by these government agent looking guys who take her away to this school where there's all these other invisible people, and it's they're gonna but then it's never brought up again. And you're like, oh, they're setting up something. Never said. I love Buffy. I'm a huge Buffy apologist. I think it's a great show. That it made no sense. It's never brought up again. The implication was that they're using these invisible people as assassins to kill government officials. Never mentioned again.
Huh.
But yeah, whatever. I'll move on because this isn't a Buffy podcast. This is a horror movie podcast. But hey, she was in an episode of Buffy, so I feel that rant was justified.
All right.
For me, it is. Okay, it's my podcast. Okay. Stokely then bumps into Stan from the intro. Ooh.
Yeah, I remember Stan guy.
Yeah, I think this is when he gets his thing. It might be, once again, this might not even be this time we see. I think it's later still for him that we see his name pop up. Stan then goes and talks to the girl that Casey was looking at. Oh, and who is it? It's Stan's girlfriend, who's also the head cheerleader and the editor-in-chief of the school newspaper. And her name is Delilah.
Oh.
Who she is played by Jordana Brewster, who is in a bunch of Fast and the Furious movies, and is also a Horror Bois alum, because we've mentioned that name before, because she stars in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. She's the main girl in that. Not the final girl, because, spoiler, everyone has to die because it's a prequel, but she is the main character of that movie.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. That's it. Stan wants to tell Delilah something, but she's too busy. We then see Casey getting, like, crotched on the flagpole.
Yeah,
because he's just
brutal.
really bullied, apparently. While a new girl...
weird world where everyone is really mean to one kid for no reason, really.
I mean, they're all kind of mean to everyone. Like, everyone's kind of a jerk. It's a heightened school, but they are definitely
there's also a really
mean.
cool, abusive couple that...
Yeah, we'll bring it up. Don't worry, I'll bring them up as they come up. Don't worry. They're very important to the plot. I mean, they're not, but they are.
Oh, yeah.
We then meet a new girl who's watching that happen. Her name is Mary Beth Louise Hutchinson from Atlanta. And she is played by Laura Harris, who was also in a ton of TV and a horror comedy called Severance, which I've never heard of, but the little description sounded kind of good, so I'll give it a mention here. Hopefully it's a good movie. It might not be. It's like a British horror comedy. Sounded interesting. Yeah. She's also someone who has like one of those faces that just looks familiar. I swore I'd seen her in something, but had no idea any of the things she's ever been in.
Yeah, she does have a familiar face.
She then asks a tattooed girl where the office is. And I would normally skip over that, but I'll bring it up here because that tattooed girl is played by Tina Rodriguez, the sister of Robert Rodriguez, our director.
Yeah, she doesn't have a line. She just points, by the way.
But, hey, I bring her up because she's, Robert Rodriguez's sister. Sorry, I'm dying. We then see a couple fighting. I wonder if they're important. I'll bring them up a couple more times. Before we sorry, I'm like phlegm. Gross. Disgusting. I should kill myself. I shouldn't. That's a joke, and probably should cut that, but I won't. Before we head to the boys' bathroom, where Zeke is selling fake IDs, not ideas, fake ideas.
Real ideas.
He's selling fake IDs to two unnamed characters. One is played by Willie Wiggins of Dazed and Confused, or Wiley Wiggins, sorry, of Dazed and Confused. And one is played by Danny Masterson of That 70s Show. And he's also brothers of Christopher, who co-starred alongside Daniel Von Bargen in Malcolm in the Middle. Woo! Yeah! Like, they're like literally like all of, like, the Commandant side of the storyline is all part of, because if you haven't seen Malcolm in the Middle, it's set up in a weird way where like half the story is like the main family, and then there's the brother who's been sent off to military school. That is Masterson, and the Commandant is at the school. Like, so they are literally like like whenever you see the Commandant, he's literally with Danny Masterson's brother. So yeah. But now I gotta bring up not fun news, because I'm not gonna just glorify a man who's a scumbag. Danny Masterson was also called out during the Me Too movement, and was later arrested and convicted of 3 counts of the crime he was accused of. So screw him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Screw him.
But those two characters who don't have names, they don't want the fake IDs because they don't look like them. Zeke ensures them that they work because he's brilliant. Masterson says that why did he repeat the year if he's so brilliant? Which I bring up here. You normally think, that line is not that important. But for the sake of a twist, I guess, at the end of this movie, spoiler, I want to make sure that I'm going to do what the movie wanted you to do, is know that Zeke is old. He definitely didn't graduate, so that means he's definitely over 18.
Yeah, he's at least 19.
Yeah.
Which makes
Yeah, no, we'll get.
later
I will
in the
complain
movie
about it
okay.
when it happens. Let's not. I don't want to think about it yet. It is
Fair.
definitely my least favorite part of this movie. Is that, and I will rant about it when we get to it. Zeke also sweetens the deal with his homemade drug, Scat.
Which is the worst name for a homemade drug.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you want to go like abadabada, you know, or
Yeah, it doesn't make you want to crap your pants.
yeah, one of the two.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Maybe both simultaneously.
And Scrat is what's in the pens from earlier.
Yeah.
Also, Zeke says the line, "This is guaranteed to jack you up."
Yeah.
Then we pan over to, in the stall right next to this happening, Casey, who is nursing his wounds. It's very important to know that Casey was there for that line for a different moment in the movie that, honestly, the first time I watched this movie, I thought made no sense. But I guess technically is okay because of this pan over shot that I did forget about.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We then head to the faculty lounge, where we meet some more teachers. Woo! It's time for that point in the movie where I just get to talk about people. That's what you want, right? Oh, no? That's fair. Well, that's what it is. This movie especially. There's a lot of cast members in this movie.
Yeah.
And they all are important people where I have to bring up what they do.
Yeah, first of which we get to hear Salma Hayek
Well,
being sick.
I do it in my order. No, stop it. I have it written down in a specific order. Don't bring up Salma Hayek yet. We will get to Salma Hayek. Because first, I want to start...
Who talks in this scene?
Yeah, but I'm literally listing off the whole group of people first, and then I bring up what happens in the scene that matters. But also, the reason I didn't get to Salma Hayek initially, which fair, I would have made sense to do it her first if I was going off of what, but the reason I didn't was because I wanted to get this person out of the way, because it's time for that other point in the movie where I have to bring up another piece of garbage. Woo, piece of garbage! Yeah!
Oh, that makes sense.
So yeah, we also have Mr. Knowles, who is played by Harry Knowles, who was a prominent film critic on the early internet. On his site, Ain't It Cool News. He's actually, sadly, also a Horror Bois alum, as he was a head on a table in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. His career ended after 5 women accused him of assault and harassment in 2017. Screw that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'll go to this next because Chris brought it up. It wasn't what I had written next, but it does make sense to go here. We also meet Nurse Rosa Harper, who is played by Salma Hayek, who is of From Dusk Till Dawn, Desperado, Spy Kids 3, and most importantly, Wild Wild West fame. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure she's very proud of those last two, both of those last movies I mentioned. I'm sure she does not regret being in Spy Kids 3 at all. But I guess when you've already been in 3 other Robert Rodriguez films, how do you tell him no?
Yeah.
We also meet Miss Elizabeth Burke, who is played by Famke Jensen, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'll be honest, it's not the most common name. I'm a little bit guessing on how to pronounce it. Who was Jean Grey in the X-Men franchise, and she was also in The House on the Haunted Hill in 1999, and was in Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter with Gemma Arterton of The Voices. Woo! There's a lot of weird connections to other things we've talked about in this movie. Because when you have 80 actors in a movie like this movie has, they're probably in movies with other actors, because we've covered like 50 movies at this point. Not really, it's like 40 something. But yeah. And then I had in my notes Salma Hayek, and then lastly we meet Mr. Edward Furlong, whose name is a reference to the actor who plays John Carter? Is that right? That's what I wrote, but I think it's right. In Terminator 2. Is that John Carter, like the guy who the Terminator's coming after? I think it is. Hey, Future Austin here. It's John Connor. Not John Carter. John Carter is from the failed Disney adaptation of a comic book of the same name, John Carter from Mars. Yeah. Oops. Furlong is played by Jon Stewart, who is probably most known for his 17 years he was the host of The Daily Show, but was a comedic actor before that, and was in two of like my favorite comedy properties like ever. One of which was being in the Dana Carvey Show, which was amazing and definitely deserved to be last more than a season, but it was ahead of its time in its weird, zany style of comedy it was going for. And also, he was also in one of my favorite like comedy movies, Big Daddy. So yeah. Important moments of this scene is Nurse Harper is sick. Mr. Furlong is trying to kind of like hit on her. And when it doesn't work, he says, maybe I should put a pen in my eye. I wonder if that's going to be relevant as he walks away. Also, the Coach Willis drinks a lot of water. I'll be honest, it's a kind of dialogue-heavy scene, and those are the important things, because I'm not going to just list off every line that happened. It
would be a little bit silly.
Yeah. Then we head to a quick scene where Zeke both jokes and seriously answers a question in Miss Burke's literature class. It's not important, but I'll mention every scene that those two have to try to make any sense of other scenes. We then head to Stan, telling Delilah he's quitting football. Quitting football.
He is quitting the football.
I added the word the, because I guess my brain went, I should write quitting the football team, but my notes just said quitting football, so then I had already added the word the, and there was no word team, so I was like, I don't know what to do. My brain broke in the middle of that. Because he doesn't want to go to college off of a sports scholarship, but wants to go on his own academic merit. Delilah is not supportive, especially because of the accepted social order of head cheerleader dates the star quarterback. That's the gist of that scene. She's not happy. She's kind of a bad person in this scene.
Kind of a
bad person. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A big bad person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then we head to Mr. Tate's, I think, government class, where Stan corrects him on what chapter they're supposed to be in. And Stokely seems impressed. Curious. Ooh. We then head outside, where Mary Beth tries to befriend Stokely, who's reading the science fiction novel Double Star. Stokely is not receptive. Then Delilah shows up and is a bad person.
Again.
Yeah. It's kind of her character.
Yeah, one might say that.
Yeah. We then head to Casey, who finds something on the football field, before having a conversation with a menacing Coach Willis about running. It's kind of like, he's like, oh, you're not much into sports. And, Casey's like, yeah, I don't see the point in running if I'm not being chased. And the coach likes that. Thinks it's funny. And then tells him to go away. We then see Stokely see Miss Olsen close the door to have a conversation with Miss Brummer.
Yeah,
then Stokely bumps into Stan again. They just keep bumping into each other.
Yeah, and then they say mean things to each other.
Yeah, they say mean things to each other. We then head to Mr. Furlong's science class, where they study Casey's football field discovery. It seems to be similar to a certain mesozoa that are only found in the kidneys of certain squid and octopi. Which is very odd, because they're in Ohio. Which is like the most landlocked state a state could be.
True.
Furlong says that it is pelagic, or yeah, we'll go with that. We'll say it's probably pronounced wrong. I don't care. Which Gabe doesn't know what that is, but Zeke knows that means it's sea dwelling. I will also point out that I will bring up every time Gabe is in a scene, because I get it. Yes, I'll explain why I did this in my notes. Is I wanted to bring it up every time to show how unimportant of a character he is, despite the fact that because they cast Usher, he's on like every poster. and he is so not important.
Oh.
On the poster on HBO Max, which like the art for it, he's in it, but Mary Beth is not. Which, spoiler, Mary Beth is a very important character. She's part of like the core cast. But Gabe is not. Yet he is on the poster because he's Usher. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking like his performance or anything like that. I'm just saying the marketing is like, no, Usher shouldn't be in all these shots. He's not that important to this movie. So I will bring up every time Gabe is in the scene, even if the scene is stupid and pointless, because I will make sure you know how unimportant he actually is to this movie, despite what the marketing might tell you.
Yeah.
Furlong thinks that this must be a new species. Zeke wonders if he might be wrong, but Furlong then spouts off even more science words, which I tried to, follow along earlier, but at this point I'm just like, I don't care. Okay, cool. There's science reasons why he's wrong. Got it, cool, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Gabe says it might be from Stokely's home planet, so she hits him, bumping him into a beaker of water that hits the organism, which makes it twitch. So Furlong puts it in the fish tank, and it turns into the scariest thing ever. Late 90s CGI. Yeah.
Ah! Yeah,
which I'll be honest, I'm not going to bring up again. Like, to be fair, honestly, when it comes to late 90s CGI, it's still not great throughout this, whenever it shows up in the movie. But I've seen worse. Like, I'm not going to harp on it.
That is my second least favorite part of the movie.
Oh, fair. I think that's probably me too. If I'm maybe depending on what we might have the same least favorite thing, or you have a completely different thing that's going to shock me, and I'm going to be like, whoa, oh, okay. We'll find that out later. But yeah, there's not any. I'll be honest. I will give the movie credit. It thankfully isn't reliant on it for the. It doesn't happen often, thankfully.
A lot, yeah.
Because it. Once again, though, I will play devil's advocate. It's not their fault. They didn't know. And also, a lot of the stuff they want to do would be practically impossible with practical effects. Like, so, it's kind of hard. Yeah. So, yeah. Furlong then puts his hand in, and it turns the creature into two creatures, and then one of them bites his finger.
Yeah. Pulls back its little mouth foreskin and bites his finger for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. It bites him.
Yeah.
We then head to the pool, where Stan tells the coach he's quitting, and he takes it way too well.
All right, cool.
I mean, I'm mad, but what am I gonna do? It's the human condition. Like, he's definitely using like the term like human, and like I'd be a bad human if I did that. And you're like, oh, all right. Other than we already know, so it's not anything for us. But, but yeah. Then, in the locker room, Gabe is about to be beat up. Oh, sorry. Then in the locker room, Gabe is about to beat up Casey when Stan stops him. Once again, had to bring that. I would have skipped that scene entirely if it wasn't for the fact that Gabe was in it. Yeah, it's Gabe.
Yeah.
Then Stan takes a shower, but is interrupted by a messed up looking Miss Brummer.
Yeah.
She says she can't breathe, rips open her shirt, says, I don't know what's happening. They want everyone. Then as he's like trying to like console her, he accidentally pulls off like her hair and skin, and it falls off, and it's disgusting looking and awesome and cool. I love it.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And then there is a moment of unfortunate 90s CGI, and then we move on.
90s CGI in that scene? I don't remember that.
On her face at like the very end, where it's like kind of melting off.
No, missed that entirely.
Yeah.
We said we weren't going to bring up every time a 90s CGI happens. I don't think that was actually relevant to this scene, Chris.
I will.
Oh, no, it happens too often for you to bring up every time it happens. Not enough that I think it's bad, a problem for the movie, but enough that I definitely think you shouldn't bring it up every time. Oh, no.
I'll only bring it up where it looks really, really bad.
It's weird that I didn't even see it in this scene, then. Oh, weird. Whatever. We then head to Miss Olsen, who's telling them that Miss Brummel was disoriented due to cancer medication and asks them to keep it quiet. Stan says he will, But Casey takes a while to respond because he is distracted by Coach Wilson standing in the field while the sprinklers go off.
Yeah,
but he does then say, "Oh yeah, sure."
In a moment. There's also like a really funny, like close up of Mrs. Olsen's face where it's like, dum, dum, dum.
It gets really dramatic for no reason. Yeah, you're right. I forgot. I didn't bring that up, but I do love that little spot. It's stupid, but I love it. We then head to Zeke, who's selling videos that are supposed to star Nev Campbell and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Nude, yeah.
Holy friend,
which is kind of like a creepy line for like the former writer of movies that both of them to be in, to even throw in there as a joke. Like, I understand it's supposed to be a joke, and I think even Zeke is supposed to be lying about these videos even existing. He's just tricking kids. But he just, like, it's like, at first my brain went, ha, funny, he's referencing other movies, basically. And then I was like, well, wait, those are, like, people who are younger than him that he is, like, not that much. They're not like they're actually, like, teen. But you get my point. It still was, like, one moment where I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh. First I was like, haha, funny, he's referencing Scream, and I know what he did last summer. And then I went, wait a second. Ew.
That's a fair reaction.
Then Miss Burke says that he can't conduct business on school grounds, and brings up with how smart he is. He could have done summer school and not been repeating a grade right now. Remember, he's not the same age as all of them. He's definitely at least 18. Some people graduate at 17. Not him. He's definitely at least 18, maybe 19.
Yeah, maybe even 19.
Gotta know that. He then tries to sell her laxatives before trying to give her cherry-flavored condoms for free. She says he's rude, which he is, and leaves upset. That scene definitely doesn't feel like there's any sort of chemistry or anything between them. Let's move on. I lost my place. We then head to Casey and Delilah, who are breaking into the faculty lounge to look for stories for the paper.
Damn.
Delilah finds meds in Nurse Harper's bag.
But everyone knows that she takes meds.
No, that's not the scene. That's a different part of the line of the scene. Not everyone knows that about her. She's like, oh, I thought she might have been on meds. Then he finds the flask of Tate, and she's like, everyone knows Tate's an alcoholic. I broke that last year. No one cared.
No one cared.
Not even his wife, who left him. And then, Casey, after that, is like, why are you such a bad person? Specifically, he says the line, I lost my place, and I'm gonna find it. You can be such a, and Delilah says, what? And he says, a pretty cool human being when you're not being a first-class grade A bad person.
Yeah. Female dog.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the bad got the bit across without having to bring up the female dog. Gosh, Chris.
No.
She asks if he's hitting on her, and he says no. And just says that he thinks she can be cool sometimes, just not now. Then they have to hide in the closet because Mrs. Olsen and Coach Willis come in. They drink water, discussing how Miss Brummer didn't make it because she was too old and couldn't handle it, and talk about how the climate's weird there for them, and how much of the faculty has been commuted, I believe is the word they use, which was a weird word, I felt like, but that's what they say. And also ask, I think the coach also asked, have any of the students been done yet? And she says soon. While that's happening, inside the closet, Casey sniffs Delilah's hair, which she does seem to notice, and for some reason like she smiles when that happens. Weird interaction.
Yeah.
Then Miss Harper comes in, and Coach Willis attacks her, and transfers the parasite to her. Casey and Delilah freak out, and knock over Miss Brummer's body that was hiding in the closet. That was being hid in the closet. The body itself wasn't hiding itself. It's a body.
Right. Right. It was a dead body that was hidden by the alien people.
Yeah. They're able to just barely push their way out of the room when they run into the hall where they see Mrs. Drake and Mr. Tate. Actually, I think
even?
Did I say what I say?
You said take?
No. Okay.
That's all good.
They run into them in the hallway. They're not helpful and acting off, so Casey and Delilah run away, splitting up when Casey trips. We then come back to the school later with Casey and his parents. His dad, played by Christopher McDonald, who played Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. This movie is just full of Adam Sandler movie alumni. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
It's two people, but it's just two. And not even the same movie. Two different movies.
Yeah, there's still a lot of Adam Sandler alumni for
That's
not
true.
being an Adam Sandler movie.
That's fair. Casey's mom is played by Libby Villari of Friday Night Lights. I don't watch it, but yeah, you might. They're meeting with two cops to investigate what Casey saw. The female cop is played by Catherine Willis, also of Friday Night Lights. And the male cop is played by Dwayne Martin, who is a Horror Bois alum, woo! Who had previously played Joel, or Joel, I actually don't remember. Who was Gale Weathers' cameraman in Scream 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived, because he was smart and left.
Yeah. Good on, Joel.
Yeah. They check the closet for Miss Brummel's body, but the cops find a CPR dummy.
Which is almost as horrifying as Mrs. Brummer's body.
Yeah. They then tell Casey that Nurse Harper is epileptic, and that's what he had saw. No, they were actually just helping her. Then Miss Drake has them they head out. Then they head out of the room, and I didn't actually have this on my notes initially, but I actually thought it was kind of a fun little interaction, so I'll bring it up. As they're leaving the room, the coach tells Casey, like, I saw you running out there. You're real fast. You know, there's a lot of chasing on the field, which is a call back to earlier. Ooh,
Yeah,
that was a fun little line. And then also, his dad is like really happy about the idea of his kid being able to do sports. He's like, oh yeah, sports.
yeah.
But yeah, so they head to the office because the part of the thing is part of the what's that the word I'm looking for? It doesn't matter. Part of what they have to do, the proceedings, is they have to call Nurse Harper to make sure that the epileptic part of the story is true and all that. So he heads in. The male cop, who once again doesn't have a name, we'll call him Joel. Joel heads in with Miss Drake into her office. While that's happening, here it is. There we are. While they're in there, Casey's parents add themselves to the Elm Street list of terrible, non-understanding parents. They just continue to not listen to their kid in even the slightest amount.
Nope.
Then a now changed Joel, as we were calling him, comes out and the cops leave. Miss Drake tries to take Casey's mom into her office for a one-on-one, but Casey stops her by saying he'll go to the psychiatrist that his mother had brought up.
Yeah.
So they head home. And at their home, his parents still won't listen and take away his phone, internet, self-harmonica tools, and music privileges.
Yeah.
Also, random little side note that I didn't feel was that important, for the sake of writing the scene down exactly as it happened, but definitely something I felt needed to be brought up, is he has really creepy pictures, stalker pictures of Delilah on his wall.
He does.
And I'm like, okay, hold up. That's just weird, but alright. Alright, Casey. I feel like I'm supposed to be rooting for you, but that's a little creeper material there.
Yeah, he really likes Delilah.
Apparently.
If you didn't get that before...
In this scene. He tries to sneak out, but he ends up falling off his roof when he sees the faculty outside his fence. On the ground, he sees them coming towards him, and he gets up to kind of turn away from them and bumps into his dad. He catches him, and when he turns around, the faculty's gone.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Then we cut to the next morning where his dad drives him to school and has a talk with Coach Willis. Oh no. And then we don't ever see his dad again, so I guess who knows what happens.
Yeah.
Inside, Casey and Delilah have a quick conversation in the bathroom before they split off to go find other people. Specifically, she's looking for Stan. Then we get a water drinking montage in the faculty lounge. Woo! Because all of them are aliens, aliens, aliens.
Yep. Standing around drinking water. Lots of it.
Yeah. Then we head into, I believe it's the government class again. And thanks to a literal push from Mary Beth, Stokely and Stan have a conversation where he opens up about wanting to be the D student he deserves to be.
Yeah.
Then Mr. Tate shows up and has them write a living family history. And apparently that's their test, is, you know,
Yeah.
write every living
Very
person you
sus.
know that's part of your family. Which, that's normal. I feel like that's a normal government assignment. No? Huh. Alright, fair enough. Zeke and Mary Beth officially meet at the lockers. And he offers her some scat. The drug. Sure.
Yep.
The drug.
Just a drug.
Or there might have also been an implication of a CD of, like, you know, Scatman Crothers, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Probably not.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But she says it would probably kill her because she's allergic to aspirin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have Stan. Cut to Stan walking in the hallway, and he hears from the new football captain, Gabe. Gabe's in the scene. Woo, Gabe! That Nurse Harper is giving ear exams right now. That's Also, the cops are there for these ear exams. Not suspicious at all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not.
We head outside where Zeke and Mary Beth are talking about how her dead and his absent parents. When Zeke notices that a lot of people are acting weird, including the boy from the fighting couple is not reacting at all as she beats him up. And yells at him and yells tons of expletives at him.
Yeah. Big red flag relationship.
Yeah, a little weird.
That's your normal.
It doesn't seem, something seems a little off there. Then Danny Masterson and I forgot the other actor's name, Wiley something. They show up and they want to buy some scat. Once again,
A lot of it.
drug. After they buy a little bit, they then ask to buy even more. They want to buy all he's got. We do see that he doesn't actually pull out all he's got when he hands them what he said he has. All he's got. He's a smart drug dealer. Doesn't want to not have supply.
Yeah.
They're really insistent. Like, you got any more? Oh, you don't have any more on you? Do you have any more in your car and your locker? Come on, we need more. And he's like, you use in moderation, guys. You're a drug addict. Stop it. Then in walks a now hot Miss Burke. Yeah. And she shows up and just rips into him. That's like the whole scene is her just being mean to him, which like he kind of deserves, but also like it just, there's no point in me at all talking about literally anything that's said in the scene because it's literally just the scene is she's mean to him.
Yeah.
And slightly like flirtatious. Slightly. Like,
Yeah.
there's like mention of like sucking on toes. Like, it's a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We then head to the library. Woo! I don't know why I went
libraries.
for the library. That was weird. Sorry. Where Casey catches Stokely up with what's happened so far. Then Casey says that everyone's acting weird, and Stokely agrees, saying they're like pod people. Casey doesn't get the reference, so Stokely says that like it's like an invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Yeah.
where aliens took over a small town. Casey thinks it might have been based on some truth. Miss Burke always says, write about what you know. So what if, Jack Finney was inspired to write Body Snatchers by aliens at his high school? And she says that his theory is flawed because Body Snatchers was a blatant ripoff of Puppet Masters by Robert Heinlein. And he says, whatever. That's not the point. But aliens could really be here. Maybe X-Files is right. And then it's at this point where I go, oh yeah, Kevin Williamson wrote this movie. Let's hear a lot of references. He says, how do we know that Spielberg, Lucas, Sonnenfeld, or Emmerich, how do we know that they haven't been visited by aliens or even aliens themselves? She's still not buying that movies like, E.T. and Men in Black are just made by aliens to trick us into believing in our happy little existence so that we wouldn't believe when it actually happened to us. But she doesn't think but she does think his crazy theory is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So they discuss how there's no pods though, so it's not like in Body Snatchers. But she does bring up how it could. Well, she doesn't actually say it could be, but she brings up how in Puppet Masters they were parasites. Implying that, hey, maybe that's what it is. Then they meet up with Stan and Delilah in Mr. Furlong's classroom and see that the new species is gone. Casey and Stokely tell Delilah and Stan their alien theory, and Stan is not buying it because, fair. We then leave the room and we head to Zeke and Mary Beth, who are breaking into a storeroom to steal some science equipment for Zeke. He needs some science equipment. But, they might get caught, so if they do, they might need to start making out. So they start making out.
Yeah, for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't get to go long, because they hear from the room next to them the discussion about aliens. So they leave to go figure out what that's about. They cut back in Furlong's room, and they're kind of all just yelling at each other. And Stan asks Casey, why would aliens be, here? Why would they come here? To which Casey replies, if you wanted to take over the world, would you blow up the White House Independence Day style? Or would you break in the back door? Which, fair.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then Zeke and Mary Beth burst in. And Zeke says that, Casey is the only alien here. Then Mr. Furlong comes in and asks why they're all in there. Shouldn't they be in class? Zeke says because Casey thinks you're an alien. Stan adds, the whole faculty, actually. Furlong's demeanor changes immediately, and he closes the curtain. Zeke tries to leave, and Furlong throws him down. Then he pushes Delilah and goozles Casey. Mary Beth takes Delilah behind the cover of a counter. Furlong pushes Casey back into Stan. Zeke then runs over and cuts off Furlong's fingers with the blades of a paper cutter he had ripped off.
Yep.
But his fingers are still moving around and crawl towards the girls. Yeah.
Some really cool 90s late CGI.
Yeah, thankfully they're fingers, so there's not a lot to animate. So they don't look too bad in my opinion. Because it's so much easier. There's not a lot to do there, so it's a lot easier for them to be there. At least in my thoughts on it, it was they still look bad, but they look less bad than some of the other CGI because it's a finger, and it's apparently easier to make a finger do something. Furlong is about to infect Zeke by spitting a little parasite into his mouth when Zeke stabs him in the eye with scat, the drug.
Yep.
Which causes his eye to froth and kills him. Casey gets the parasite that Furlong had spit out, and the crew heads to the parking lot. Past a school of infected students, including a now hugging fighting couple.
Man,
not
everyone's
fighting at all,
acting weird.
But yeah, everyone's acting just a little odd. Once at the parking lot, the football team, including Gabe, tries to talk Stan into staying, but he says, nah, I'm good. And they all leave in Zeke's car. They seem like they might be trying to leave town, but they see like a police blockade and like they're doing checks and having to pull over, and they're like, nah, we're not doing that, and they head to Zeke's house.
Yeah.
And they go into his lab because he's basically Dexter's laboratory. He's a scientist actually.
He is a mad scientist slash drug dealer.
He's a drug dealer.
He is Heisenberg.
Yeah, before Heisenberg. Heisenberg is Zeke. Get it right.
Picking up scat in his garage.
Yeah.
With his pet rat Oscar.
Yeah, they cut off a piece of the parasite that Casey took, and Zeke has it infect his pet rat Oscar. He then immediately has to kill it, and he dissects him. He says it's part of a greater organism, and that look how it dried out Oscar, and he explains why Scat killed it. Scat killed for long. Is that his drug is a diuretic, and it dried out and killed him, / the parasite, because he's saying this as he's killing the little parasite that he pulled out of Oscar.
Okay.
Stokely says that speaking of the parasite is using them as a host and making them mindless drones that they can control. Delilah doesn't think she knows what she's talking about. Stan wants to, hear her out because, she's been right so far. Maybe Delilah should stop being such a bad person. Stokely theorizes that all the parasites are connected, and if they kill the master, they stop it, and they will save everyone else who had been infected. Excuse me. Delilah says they should just leave town. Casey points out how it wouldn't ever stop then, and look how quickly it did here. If we left town, it'll get the whole world in a week.
Yeah.
Stan points out that, one of them could be an alien for all they know. They don't know how these alien things work. As Stokely says, in Body Snatchers, they become emotionless. Stan says it's not that this time because the coach still has emotions, was just acting slightly odd.
Yeah.
Then they all point, metaphorical fingers at each other and how they're all odd now, and how it could be any of them. They could all be aliens. We have a quick cut outside where a car drives up. Back inside, Zeke has a solution. And that solution is each of them are going to take a hit of scat, the drug. Woo. In a scene, paying homage to The Thing. Casey goes first. While with relatively no complaints. He's doesn't want to be first, but he's understanding that this needs to happen, and he's clean. Nothing happens to him. Stan doesn't want to do this because he doesn't do drugs, and also he wants Zeke to do it. But Zeke says he doesn't get high on his own stash. Then Casey starts tweaking, and Stan aims a gun at Casey for this, and Zeke's yelling, "He's tweaking! Stop it!" So
let him tweak.
Yeah, let him tweak. So he then points this gun, which by the way, this is Zeke's gun. It was established earlier in the scene, it was just on a table. He's now pointing Zeke's gun at himself. Well, Stan is pointing Zeke's gun at Zeke. I realized that wording could be hard to understand what I meant. But yeah, he's pointing the gun at Zeke, and he's telling him, "Hey, you do it now." And Zeke does. He snorts it, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Then Stan, he takes a hit of it, and he's also clean. Stokely doesn't want to take it because it's some street drug. What is this? The 80s? I'm not going to snort some crap. But Zeke reminds her about how aliens are out there right now. Weigh the options, and also tells her what was in it. And it's mostly caffeine and other household stuff. So she takes it somewhat reluctantly, but still takes it, and she's fine.
Yeah. Stan
is now giggly with Casey. Zeke tells Delilah it's her turn, and she says no. Marybeth first. Marybeth says she's allergic, to which Delilah replies, "I'm Portuguese. Who cares?" Zeke starts laughing and asks if she's always this fun. Stan replies, sometimes she can be a real bad person. Him and Casey high five over that, which the only reason I even probably brought up this whole, like, I'm Portuguese, it's because of, I loved this scene when the first time I saw it, when they high five, because, like, Casey earlier called her that, you know, so I love that, like, them high fiving over Delilah being a not so nice person.
Yeah.
Zeke then tells them that they both have to take it. Mary Beth says, "You know I can't," and Zeke tells her she has to. So both girls get ready, and Mary Beth seems okay. It looks like she took it and everything's fine. But Delilah, it doesn't seem like she did take it, because she falls backward and drops it. And Stan goes over to check on her, and she's got bug face. That's CGI.
Yeah, squirmy wormies in her face.
Zeke tells Casey to shoot Delilah. Stan tells him not to. Casey doesn't shoot her, so Stokely takes the gun and misses a bunch of shots at Delilah. As Delilah destroys the lab before running away and getting into the getaway car that we saw drive up earlier. Yeah. Then they head to school with all that's left that Delilah didn't destroy of the scat, the drug. They head there to look for the Queen because it's Friday night, and you know that's where the whole town will be. So that's where the Queen will be. We then get a football parasite passing montage set to another brick in the wall cover of the Pink Floyd song by Class of '99. I do genuinely, like, I'll bring it up here, like, I joked about it being, you know, from what's the state, you know, the Kiss FM station here in our town. But I do genuinely just love the, like, soundtrack of this movie. And I only brought up these two songs because I felt like these two songs really felt like they fit their scenes a lot. Like, I liked this. I thought the song sounded really good here as we're seeing all these, you know. Yeah, I just liked it. That's really it. That's really the whole point, was I liked it. That's the point. I don't have more to add to it. I just thought it was a good song choice for this scene, because the song was about, like, school and whatnot. And not letting teachers tell you what to do, and hey, the faculty are the bad guys. Whoa. Yeah. I mean, I guess at this point,
the entire school now.
Yeah, at this point, everyone's the bad guys, but the movie's still called The Faculty.
Right.
Once they're after they watch a little bit of the football game, the kids are followed by Miss Drake into the gym. Zeke and Stan tie her up with, like, a volleyball net. And Casey, after a little bit of talking, the scene kind of goes on for maybe a little longer than it needs to. He's about to stab her in the eye with the scat, but he doesn't, because she, like, says, "Oh, you want drugs?" Which, you know, was called back to, you know, earlier where his parents asked him that. So, like, it was a moment where, like, I think he realized, like, oh no, I don't know, I didn't have a problem with this that part of the scene at all. Like, it's like, I thought it was a cool reason for him not to do it. Yeah.
Are you okay?
No.
Are you an alien?
I am. Spoiler, I am the alien. I am the Queen. I know. She then, after he's not able to stab her, Zeke walks up, takes the gun from Stan, who had been pointing it at her, and just shoots her in the head. And at first it looks like nothing happened, except for, like, blood starting to come out of her head, and, you know, Casey's like, "Oh, we made a mistake." But then she stands up, and she's got bug face. Woo! There's a bunch of little creepy crawlies come out of her head wound.
Yeah.
Then Mary Beth runs up and dumps all of the reserve scat, the drug, onto Miss Drake, leaving only 2 pens worth. Really hope that, you know, she was the Queen, you know, Miss Drake. You know, the person we watched get turned by 2 oh no! Yeah. That means they're wrong!
No, they only got 2 pens of scat to kill the Queen.
The drug.
Oh, jeez.
Gotta make sure, every time I say the scat, it's the drug. Just so people don't get confused. I don't want people tuning in late to the podcast, because, you know, this is airing on television.
Yeah.
Stan goes outside to check and see if it worked, but before he leaves, Stokely makes out with him. just in case, she doesn't get a chance to, do that ever again.
Do it again?
Yeah.
In case he dies or gets turned.
He does take one of the scat pens with him, the drug. At the field, Stan sees the coach and the team, I assume, with Gabe. Once again, I didn't see him in the scene, but I'm sure he's there. Go and bring it up. They're all staring up at the rain, all parasite-y. Then we cut back inside, and Stan shows up outside. And Stokely is about to let him in when Casey says, that she doesn't know if he's, still Stan. And Stan says, Stan's like, I dropped it when I was running away from the coach. He's definitely the master. I don't think they call him the queen, because that would be a little weird. But Casey passes their last scat to him to test him, and Stan is about to, test himself, and he dumps it. No, they have no scat. The drug. Stan tells Stoke what?
The music.
Yeah, they
still got plenty. Yeah, everyone's got scat,
and they've all been eating today. So we haven't seen any of them eat. They might not be able to produce stool right now.
They might not be able to, and that's all right.
Because that's not what this is about at all. It's always been about the drug. Every time we say it, we're talking about the drug, obviously.
Yeah. Always has been.
Yeah.
Always will be.
Stan then tells Stokely to open the door because she'll have no more pain and no more worries, and she'll be beautiful. And, how he wants her to be part of it. They want her and all that. Mary Beth takes her away from that. And Zeke threatens to shoot Stan, so he'll show him, hey, you're going to feel pain. So Stan runs away and leaves.
Yeah.
Then Zeke and Casey realize, Zeke specifically realized, I think I might have more scat in my trunk.
Yeah.
Once again, he has scat the drug in the trunk of his car. That definitely, that could have been taken a different way.
He does have scat the drug in his trunk.
Well, actually, he doesn't. Spoiler.
No, he doesn't.
But he thinks he might.
But it is in his front seat, so
we're not at that point yet. I wasn't trying to give him the whole thing.
Oh, you already spoiled.
We have like 2 more scenes there before we get to that, though. There's still multiple scenes before we get to that point.
You spoiled it first.
Yeah, but you didn't have to keep adding on to it to just... It's not the time for it. So they go to get the scat. They leave.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they head out... Lost my spot.
Well, they being Casey and...
Yeah, Zeke and Casey specifically. They leave to go get it. They're like ducking under buses.
School buses.
As like the football team is doing their marching. And then they split up. Because
I say an abnormal amount of school buses for a small school in Ohio.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Fair enough. Whatever. But maybe the other team hadn't left yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well,
they had. We definitely watched them drive.
Yeah, they did.
But we'll pretend that they're still here.
They left all their school buses. They just ran home.
They walked home. Well, they all stayed in town because they're all aliens.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we find out actually that the plan for the whole time, Casey didn't know this, but he was always meant to be a decoy. So he runs off in the other direction to, be a diversion. He pulls the football team away. He's able to sneak away and hide into a bus. But then Delilah comes in, and she tries to convince Casey to be part of them. Just give in. You get to be with me. I know you want me. Right before he's actually tackled from behind, he escapes out the emergency hatch, and he runs away because he's fast.
Yeah, he runs when he
and has like a 6-foot vertical.
Yeah,
I mean maybe he jumps on the
not a 6-foot vertical. He's got at least like 8-foot vertical and a really long wingspan,
and also like really strong upper body that he definitely doesn't have. I feel like it's maybe a little suspect that he so cleanly gets out of that bus.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we head to Zeke, who's checking his trunk when Miss Burke shows up. Woo! And she says she wants those condoms now. Whoa. Zeke says he's out. He's like, oh, I don't have any.
Sorry, can't do it.
And while he says that, he sees the scat on his floor in the car, the drug.
The drug scat in the front seat on the floor.
Yeah. He has, actually, I have something else for you, though. I don't have those condoms, but I do got something else you might want. And she's like, oh, really? And then he gets himself in his car and is about to try to drive away, but she throws herself through the passenger window. He starts driving. She gets knocked to the back seat because he's going so fast. The scene goes on for a little bit of him kind of scraping against the thing to knock her back again. And she says a lot of the lines he said to her earlier in now a very sensual manner.
Yeah, and then her parasite tongue comes out to try to lick his ear.
Yeah. And while this is happening, he buckles up. And he crashes into some buses, and an explosion happens, and she goes flying out the windshield, and it's cool. I mean, it makes no sense, but that's just a movie thing. I get, that's not even at all a statement on the faculty. That's a statement on movies. Cars don't explode like that.
Yeah, not when you just crash them.
Yeah, but it's always cool, and I can't blame Robert Rodriguez for wanting a car explosion. Cool. But, no, it doesn't happen. So he throws her out, and he gets himself out, somehow relatively fine from having a head-on collision. He, thankfully, there was a good crumple zone in that car, because he didn't break his legs at all or anything.
Yeah.
That, 60s car that probably didn't even have a crumple zone.
Unfortunately for Mrs. Burke, her head came off.
Yeah, and now it's, scurrying around, on a little, octopi body kind of thing, while her body bumbles around behind her. Reminding me of, I'm 99% sure a scene that Robert Rodriguez recreates when he makes Spy Kids, because I believe the Thum Thumbs does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But it's a different audience entirely. He didn't expect, the same audience to see those movies, so fair.
Well, too bad.
But I did.
Yeah. So
So ha. But also, it's fine. I don't mind. If it's a funny gag. I see why you want to do it again.
Yeah.
But and then he runs away with the scat he took from the floor. The drug. Yeah. Back inside, we see Mary Beth, who's asking Stokely, how did, Invasion of the Body Snatchers end? And Stokely says, we lose. Then Mary Beth says, maybe really we win? Because you get to be happy and not be an outsider anymore. Then she punches Stokely and reveals her alien body that alternates between being a cool, practical monster in close-ups and an awkward 90s CGI whenever it moves.
Yeah.
But once again, I'll bring it up here. I won't bring it up every other time we see this specific alien. But I will say, I'll bring up, I understand. They couldn't make that giant monster move convincingly. And I'm sure that giant monster was probably, tons of money. So it's not like they could have made multiple of them even. It's I get it. I do.
Yeah.
I wish this movie was made in 2020 so that CGI could have just been really good when they had to use it.
That's a fair thing to want.
Imagine the Stranger Things team CGI guys working on this. The stuff they did with CGI doing this movie. Would have been cool. But, that would involve time travel, which is not a thing.
No. That we know of.
It's not a thing currently, I believe. Yeah. Stokely and Casey comes in around the same time, and Stokely and Casey run away around the pool. But the monster the alien jumps into the pool, and Stokely is tentacled and pulled under the water right after she bangs her jaw on the wall. It's a really cool shot. Oh gosh, you would have to think she should just be dead there, just dead. But
or at least unconscious for a very long time.
I'm sure the way that blood came out, I was oh crap, did she I don't know. I guess fair, it's just a broken jaw. But it was cool. Casey is able to use a pool skimmer to help Stokely out. And they run and hide in the locker room. Then the alien queen transforms into a naked Mary Beth. Ooh.
Whoa.
I mean, it's a thing, I guess. She's naked.
Yeah.
Zeke makes his way into the locker room, and both Naked Mary Beth and Stokely are trying to convince Zeke that the other is the queen. Then Zeke asks Mary Beth a very important question: "Why are you naked?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Don't you like my body? I'm kind of getting used to it," which kind of reveals immediately. I mean, I guess to be fair, he was figuring it out because she was naked, and that was weird. But she immediately just gives away the answer.
Like, you got me.
Fair enough.
I'm an alien, I guess.
Yeah. Where I lost my place. And Zeke says, "But I saw you take the scat." Well, I think he says specifically the test, but I want to say the word scat again because it's funny.
The drug.
Yeah, the drug. Well, the word scat doesn't have to be the drug to be funny. The word scat is just funny. So when I'm saying the sentence, the word scat is funny, I'm not talking about the drug. I'm talking about the word, which has multiple meanings.
Yeah.
Mary Beth says, "How the hell can you be sure what you saw?" And then we get a flashback of her closing her nostril and using a tentacle finger to empty the scat from the drug, from the cap side. Which is a kind of lame, reveal of how they did. But especially, I will say, one of the reasons why I think it was definitely lame was because I watched this 3 movie to take notes for it / watch it with my dad and all that. In the moment, maybe they could have hit it, but when they cut and you don't actually see her fully take it, so maybe they hit it well. But then in the shot right after it, you see the pen she just snorted with the cap still on. The cap should have been off in that shot, and no one would have even noticed it. But then you could have gone back and gone, "Oh," but it wasn't. So they didn't actually do it in that scene. So she shouldn't have been able to take it. It was impossible.
Well, they don't take it from the cap; they take it from the bottom.
Yeah, but she specifically put it up her nose, but closed her alien nostril, and then pushed off the cap to have it fall out. But then when the scene right after it, you see her empty thing with the cap still on, which means the cap didn't fall off, so she didn't. It's a small editing, a continuity error, really, but it does ruin this twist. It would have been awesome if you rewatched it and go, "Oh my gosh, I should have saw that the cap was off," But they didn't do that because they forgot to do it. So it is impossible. It is a flaw. It could have not been a flaw if in that next scene the cap was off, but now it is a flaw.
Yeah, not wrong.
Zeke is about to stab her when Stokely stops him, revealing she's been infected.
No.
Which makes sense. She was pulling into that water. I mean, why wouldn't she have been infected at that point? Casey is able to pull her away from Zeke and locks her in an equipment cage. Excuse me. Which is something that makes no sense to me why it exists, but is definitely a thing that does exist in locker rooms. I just don't understand. I mean, I guess it's a giant locker, basically, to make sure the equipment doesn't get stolen. But it just feels weird that it's a cage. Why couldn't it just be a closet? But whatever. That's just me not understanding the existence of equipment cages.
Yeah.
Zeke has Casey... Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, then Zeke and Casey meet back up, and Zeke has Casey take a hit of scat, the drug, to make sure he wasn't also infected. They then head off to try to hide, but they get split up because Casey has to stop for a second because he's, seeing to everything because he's high.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a good... that's a thing that happened. It could be a very kind of tropey of the characters split up, but I think the reason made a lot of sense here, so I'll give him a thumbs up for making the party splits up be a good reason.
Fair.
Yeah. Then we stuck with Casey this whole time, and then Zeke is thrown over all the lockers. So Casey runs over to him to try to help him, but he gets spooked by shadows, and backs up into the equipment cage, and he gets grabbed by Stokely, or Stokes as they call her a lot. But I said this is the one time I said Stokes, and it felt weird because I haven't done that for the rest of it. But they do switch back and forth.
True.
And he is able to rip himself off of her and leave some of his hair because he because she's holding it, and like he rips it off. That's because he's hardcore now. He's cool.
Yeah.
He hides as Mary Beth starts her villain monologue. I'm not going to tell you any of the stuff she says, but that's what it is. It's basically just like, here's why I did all this. You guys were all sad. And my planet was destroyed. Arr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna take over the planet and make everyone happy, and there'll be no more losers.
Yeah. He then goes over to grab the scat, and she goes full queen again and starts chasing him. Oh, also, I guess I'll bring it up here. In the scene where we see her, like, giving her villain monologue, for some reason, besides just it looks kind of cool, but makes no sense in actually, if you think about it for even half a second.
Tentacle shadows?
The tentacle shadows are still there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe it's a situation where maybe she was the alien the whole time, but they just wanted to use the actress to make it make sense for her to talk. And maybe that was their way of like hinting at the fact that she was actually the alien in this whole scene. But I don't know. Maybe that's the justification if I like talk to Robert Rodriguez and he would actually have an answer for it. But when it comes to in the movie, there is no answer and it just looks weird.
I think it just was meant to look cool and ominous.
Yeah. But there is an argument that could be made by someone that it was a point, but who knows? We'll never know because I'm never gonna get the opportunity to talk to Robert Rodriguez. And if I do, I'll probably have some questions about Spy Kids and forget about this movie.
Fair.
But yeah, she starts chasing him, and he has her follow him into the bleachers that has like this automatic closing feature. Like he hits the button. It's a cool little tense scene of him like it's slowly closing, and like he kind of trips a couple times. You're like, oh, is he gonna get crushed too? But he makes it out just at the last second, and she gets stuck on the last one. And he stabs her in the eye, saying that, it's guaranteed to jack you up, which I thought was a flaw, but wasn't. I will say that I was wrong when I initially watched it and thought it was a flaw. It was not. He was there and could have heard of it. When it happened, I was like, it would have been more sense if, Zeke had said that line. Why would he say that line? But he at least would have heard it, so he could have been quippy in the moment and said it.
As he stabs her in the face, he gets shot in the face by little parasites.
Yeah, and they try to burrow their way into his face, but they don't end up getting a chance to actually do anything because they fall out and die when she starts dying from the scat, the truck.
Yeah.
He then goes and checks on Stokely, and then them and us, the audience, we get like the only like really jump scare in the movie as Zeke pops up at the like equipment cage outside at them.
Cage. Yeah.
And then we head to 1 month later, and Zeke is playing football alongside Gabe.
For some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just maybe now he's applying himself at things, and he could be an athlete if he wants to, I guess is the implication. I'm fine with him being a football player.
Guy.
I have no problem with him being a football player. What I have a problem with, and what is my personal least favorite part of this movie, is the thing that makes me the most angry, is for some reason, Miss Burke is watching on. And like kind of waving at him with these horrible implications that they're like in a relationship now or something. He is still a student. I don't care if he's 19. No.
Yeah.
And it's like creepy. And they had hinted at like the possibility of it throughout the movie because there was always somewhat awkward scenes with them, but also not, because you'd also argue I'd also argue that the only times there was any actual chemistry at all between them was when she was evil.
Yeah.
Not her. She seemed really hurt by what he was saying to her. But whatever. I'm mad, but I'm not. I know I said I'd rant about it, but I don't really have even that much to say other than it's stupid, and it almost, not really at all, but I'll say it for the sake of drama, almost ruins the movie for me. Because it's so stupid.
Pretty stupid.
Also, we get to then see that Stan and a now non-goth Stokely are together.
Yeah, for some reason she's not goth anymore.
I guess, once again, to be fair to the movie, I guess the implication was that was her trying to hide and be rejectable. She didn't want friends. She didn't want people to talk to her. That might have not actually been her. That was her putting on a mask of darkness so people would leave her alone. I'm not saying it's a good reason, but you could argue maybe that's what it is. But actually what it probably is something that we haven't brought up here, but is this movie is also, not only is it just a horror movie, an alien movie, it's also kind of a retelling of like the Breakfast Club with the way the characters are all their archetypes. And the goth girl in that also decides to not be goth at the end of the movie. And that's probably actually what they were doing with her not being goth. It was probably an homage to the Breakfast Club.
Maybe.
Because they did, in multiple of the interviews, they did mention how it had similarities to the Breakfast Club for the movie. So, which, like, each character, yeah, I could see filling the kind of the type of archetype from that. But maybe that's why she's not goth now. Who knows? We'll never know.
She does still have her chain choker, though.
Yeah. Well, you know, she still likes being choked. Also, Delilah and Casey are also together.
Yeah.
And she's not as mean now, I guess. And the scene ends with Delilah saying, "You can be pretty cool sometimes, too."
Yeah.
It's a callback, which this movie does, for the most part, do really good. I feel like with its callbacks, there's a lot of times where it would say something or, like, hint at something. I thought it was really cool and they paid it off. This just felt stupid. Because also, I don't know if I want them to be together. Like, it's cool. It's like the nerd gets the girl. That never happens. But also, like, this girl was a jerk to, like, everyone. Why, am I supposed to want him to be in that relationship? I'm sure that relationship is toxic. Delilah seems toxic. Period.
Before and after the alien.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Then we get our credits. And it has the cool, like, the actor's name over a shot of them in the movie. Which includes the fighting couple as like the last joke is, even though they're not like important, they have credits. So I will now bring up who the fighting couple is played by, because they're played by John Abrams of House of Wax and Scary Movie, and Summer Phoenix, who was in SLC Punk with Matthew Lillard, and is the sister of River and Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and before we get to our final thoughts and whatnot, I have a couple more little things. This movie was a complete, like, financial failure. It flopped. They really they were counting on this being a huge thing, because this was trying to capitalize off of, like, that teen horror craze that, Kevin Williamson started. And it didn't quite work for them, which, it has a huge director at the time, just coming off of, a really successful movie, and From Dusk Till Dawn. You have Kevin Williamson just coming off of Scream 1 and 2. You have, like, a cast full of teen heartthrobs, and it didn't work. Because this movie had a $15 million budget and only made $40 million, which means it technically might have barely broke even. Because, like, you might be like, oh, 15 and 40, that means it definitely broke even. But there's also marketing budgets, which are not included in that, which typically what you always hear is to double the budget to know what the marketing budget was. Which means this movie might have made $10 million. And you're like, that's a success. Technically, yes. But they only made this movie because, they got Kevin Williamson to do it and all that, was because they wanted to have another Scream. And Scream made, like, 218 times its initial budget. Or something like that. Like, so this movie was a failure. And part of why it was a failure probably was that it was marketed as, another teen slasher. Which it kind of isn't.
Wasn't.
It has some elements of like that teen horror, teen slasher vibe to it, but also isn't. It's its own thing. It's not anything that anyone else has ever done. But I think it does deserve some credit for trying to be all those things. I like this movie. We'll move on to the thoughts. I thought this movie was fun. I'm not going to sit here and say this movie is the greatest movie of all time, because it's not. But yeah. I thought it was fun. I love the soundtrack. I like most of the... I was going to say most of it. I don't think there was any acting choice I disliked in this movie. I thought all the actors did their roles exactly what they were supposed to be. I thought the characters were written pretty well, except, there was a couple, like... I think the characters were written well. Some of the story was a little, like, specifically Mrs. Burke. What the heck? Why is she... Why? No issues with, Famke Jensen. She did the role she was given. But her whole subplot, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But, and, the CGI, yeah, it's not good. But also, I don't care. I understand. I can understand that it's what it is. Like, I could also understand if someone says, oh, that took me out of it entirely. Fair. For me, it doesn't. I go, it's a 90s movie. It's going to happen. Wish it didn't. but it happens. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely am happy I watched it. I'm happy I saw it. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I like it. Don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty fair assessment on this movie. I will say that I like this movie much more than I was anticipating. Because based on the movie poster, I was like, I don't know what to think about this. And then I think the first 5 minutes of, Coach cursing out and some of, I would like to say, the weirdest curses I have ever heard.
Yeah. And curses that we can't say at all what they are, but they repeat them later with different characters, implying that that's just a phrase.
A phrase that people use.
Yeah.
I guess
there's
in
a
the
word.
late 90s.
I'll try to say it without saying it. Another word for feline, kitty, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, puke. Feline throw up.
Yeah, feline throw up. We can say puke, Chris. Puke is okay.
We can't.
Yeah, feline puke, and it was like he says it, and you're like, okay, that's a weird coachism. He's just throwing crap out there. But then the fighting couple uses it too.
Say it. Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah. Anyways, all that was misleading. I'm glad I did have to watch this movie because I did enjoy it overall. Like I said, there are some unfortunate choices that were made, and also, sadly, it is just a product of its time, being the late 90s and the CGI, and again, some of the weird curse words that were used. But overall, a very fun watch. Yeah.
Was your least favorite part that you hinted at earlier also the Mrs. Burke relationship, or was it something else that you didn't bring up yet?
Yeah, no, it was
okay. I was gonna make sure because it could have been something else. What is it? You said that you wasn't the CGI was your second least favorite, so I was just want to make sure because you didn't be like, yeah, me too. I absolutely hate you. You agreed that it was stupid, but I just want to make sure that there wasn't some other hidden secret thing that you hated that I'd be like, what? You didn't like Usher? But he's Gabe. He was in 7 scenes.
Yeah, it did feel silly that Gabe was on the poster
and not Mary Beth,
the character that he was.
What?
Yeah,
but not Mary Beth. Or there are actually multiple different posters. I'll bring up a little quick poster talk. I looked it up. There's a lot of different posters. There's one that has the 6 main characters and Usher. Where I go, okay, fine, that's 7 people. But it's also a really busy poster because there's 7 faces on it and it doesn't look good because of it. But then there's a lot that are 5 or 6, and anytime there's 6, Usher's on it for sure. There's one with 5 that doesn't have Usher and also doesn't have Stan, and I'm like, okay. And then there's also one with Usher that doesn't have Stan, and that was one of the 6. It's just it's what? Why? I'm sorry. I'm no disrespect to Usher. I have no problem with Usher, but I have a problem with his marketing involved with it. He's not important.
Yeah, he is a side character in this movie.
But yeah, that's the movie. Next week, what are we talking about? Well, if you don't know, next week is when this episode comes out. Will be Monday. Wait, is that right? Am I doing this right? I gotta make sure I'm right. I think our next movie is a certain movie, but I gotta make sure that comes out right. This comes out on Monday the 4th. This will come out on Monday the 14th. Which means, I think, Thursday the 17th should be Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, so we're watching Thanksgiving next week, but I'll make sure that's right, because... Is it Thanksgiving on Thursday the 17th? I think it is. I'm sure it is. If it's not, Thanksgiving's coming out before it's supposed to. But I think I'm right. I think Thanksgiving is because it's the 3rd Thursday. So yeah, it's the 3rd Thursday. That's when Thanksgiving is, right?
I don't know.
Thanksgiving's coming out next week because I said it here. It might be out a complete week too early. I don't know. I don't think it is. I'm sure I did my research when I was planning this. Probably should cut all this, but I want you to see the real us and the real awkwardness.
Yeah. This is it.
Hey, Future Austin here, jumping in here again. I know, what the heck. But after you just saw that confusion, I thought I'd, clear it up. It's the next episode on Thanksgiving. It's coming out on the 21st. Thanksgiving is on the 24th, not the 17th. I got confused when I looked at the calendar. The episode you just listened to came out on the 14th, and I was bringing up the 14th, even though that doesn't actually matter for next week. My bad. Back to the rest of the outro. Yeah, if you like this weird awkwardness, give us a 5-star review on all the podcast apps, including Spotify, Apple, Google Plus. Not Google Plus, Google Play. Google Plus doesn't exist anymore. They killed that service because it sucked.
Like Google Plus.
Yeah. Yeah. Or also, if you want to support us directly, head on over to patreon.com/downtownkentucky. And also, if you made it this far, you're a fan of the podcast. Head on over to this episode on YouTube, even if you listen to it on the audio podcast, and leave a comment letting us know what your thoughts are on if we had an ad in the podcast. Would you stop listening? Because apparently we're eligible for ads, and that'd be cool if we could make money off of this. Let us know your thoughts. I don't want to hey man, if it's too, you think we're too small, and you as a fan would be upset if we did it. Let us know. We might not do it. Just let you know it might happen. Maybe not. But yeah, I'm Austin. He's Chris, and we'll be back next week. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.